Happy National Botox Day! Today, what better way to celebrate this amazing stuff, Botox, than to give it its own national holiday? Yes, today is National Botox Day, so I wanted to come on and give a little love to the OG Botox cosmetic. Yes, this is the first FDA approved neurotoxin, neuromodulator, botulinum toxin type A, and it really is synonymous with the whole category of this type of product, even though there are 3 others and now a new FDA approval on a 4th similar product. But when people talk about getting their Botox, they'll just say, I got Botox, and they could be referring to any of the others as well, but it's become so synonymous with this type of a treatment. It's a wrinkle smoother, a wrinkle relaxer, and that is a great thing when you're trying to consider some of the movement and lines on the face. Yes, so it really is the OG. What's the mechanism of action on this? Like, how does it even work? So anytime our brain tells our body muscle to move, I mean, we can do it so effortlessly. There's no real thought, but our body is working crazy things behind the scenes. It's sending the signal from the brain through your nerve pathways to the neuromuscular junction and the muscle, and they talk to each other and they make the movement to occur. So if we're talking about wanting to inhibit that movement, we use this Botox on the muscles of the face or other areas as well. And so what happens is we inject the Botox, and it has made up of a couple of different elements, a long chain and a short chain. And what it does is it will attach to the SNAP25 protein on our nerves, and it prevents the release of acetylcholine, the chemical that causes the reaction of the muscle movement. So therefore, the acetylcholine's not released, the muscle's not moving, and it's blocking that and cleaving it from happening. It's temporary, as we know. If you've used Botox before, it's, a few month process for it to restore its connections again. That's why it's not permanent. So that's kind of the mechanism of action. I find that extremely fascinating. The healthcare professional and nurse in me loves to understand why it's happening. Our body's amazing. It just does what it does, and we don't have to think about it. But this is the mechanism of which is occurring. So there's so many great ways to use it. In the hospital side and the medical side of things, there's many uses for Botox that's not aesthetics. Vocal cords, disorders of the vocal cord, you can use Botox for treatment of dystonias. Sometimes people will have some muscle spasticities that you can use it for. The trapezius muscles can become enlarged or hypertrophied and cause lots of discomfort in people. Same thing with migraine headaches. Certain injection points on the head can treat migraine headaches. So it has many useful indications beyond aesthetics, but in my realm, working in medical aesthetics, I'm using it for the treatment of relaxing and smoothing out wrinkles. So where can we use it? Most people are familiar with the usual places on the upper face, which is where it first got its FDA approvals and indications for the use of the glabella, frontalis, and orbicularis oculi. But why would you stop there? There's excellent places and indications for using it full face, and really gives a much more balanced and cohesive result when we're thinking about relaxing muscles. All of our muscles have opposing muscles to them. So there's ones that lift and then there's ones that depress. And so how we decide to manipulate that can give a beautiful result. Let me take my glasses off. First of all, ignore any of the minor swelling or bruising you see under my eyes. I had a treatment done the other day, which is not Botox. It's a all natural treatment to help rejuvenate the tissue and the skin under the eye. People like me getting a little older, we're starting to see those hollows under the eyes. So this is an all natural treatment. I'll talk more about it later. But today we're talking about Botox. So those common places. So when we raise our eyebrows, a lot of us see lines up here. And over time, it's just like a piece of paper that you scrunch together and then smooth out, scrunch together and smooth out. Eventually, some of those lines just remain there. So what we're trying to do is smooth this area out. And so by treating the frontalis muscle, we can smooth out those fine lines that become etched in over time and gives a prettier, smoothed out look. And it is a little more youthful and people like that look. The other common area is this grouping of muscles here called the glabella. And those are all depressor muscles. Those muscles are pulling down. So these two muscles oppose each other. This one is lifting our eyebrows and this one is pulling down everything. And so over time, people can get those etched in 11 lines, or even sometimes people will get this line or bar across their nose from this area pushing down. My face doesn't really do that naturally. Mine pushes more in from the sides, these corrugator muscles. So when we treat this area, it does give a nice released effect from those depressor pulling down muscles and can give them more of an open appearance to the eyes. Sometimes people will look angry if these muscles are very strong. So it is pleasant to see a nice lifted appearance there. Treating these muscles together is very specific. We obviously want to preserve you being able to lift your eyebrows. So standard dosing here does not apply. It really needs to be very specific for you and what your strengths are in your muscles. We talk about this round muscle here of the eye. That's the orbicularis oculi muscle. And when we talk about crow's feet are those lines that appear when we really animate squinting or smiling. They can travel all the way back here. And by treating this area of that orbicularis muscle, we can see a smoothing effect of those fine lines. So there's also an area that we can treat on that same muscle up here. So if somebody's orbicularis muscle is pulling down and contributing to that appearance, we can do a little bit of a brow lift by treating that same orbicularis muscle right out here near the tail of the brow. And again, it's just preventing that round muscle from pulling in tight. And so in doing so, we get this little release in a brow lift. That's a great one too. Okay, let's move along to the orbicularis on this side of the muscle. So on some people, this muscle can become hypertrophied and we call it the jelly roll. People are always, when they've heard me say jelly roll, they're like, what is that jelly roll? Do I have it? I mean, it sounds good to eat. We love those, but we don't really want them on our face, especially on our under eye. So for people that have that hypertrophy of this area on their eye, it kind of looks like a jelly roll. It's this cylinder, long kind of a line underneath the eye, and it can create shadows and that'll cause some darkness, even though you don't maybe actually have darkness on that under eye area. So that sometimes is a spot people that bothers them. Moving on to the nose, so the nasalis muscle is in through here. That's kind of what we'd be treating. So that is not a natural movement that my face makes, so I don't really need to be concerned about treating that spot. But for some people, when they do animate and smile, that becomes very strong and they don't like those lines. We call them the bunny lines. So that's a great area for a small amount of Botox. Another area, so this muscle here is responsible for the upward excursion of the lip. And so when some people smile, they have a lot of gum show. And if that's a concern to people and they don't want that, there's a way to minimize it. And that's by treating the muscle here and here, that elevator muscle to the upper lip. When I smile, I have a little gummy show and I have a little more on this side than I do on that side. So I could potentially treat this side only and kind of minimize that that amount of gummy show. It just pulls a little stronger on that side for me. All of our faces are asymmetric. I know we're always striving for symmetry. That's the ideal beauty. But if you go back to fetal development, we are born and our face, or we're created, and our face kind of turns inward and is created that way. So it's, you're not going to have symmetry. There's going to be some natural asymmetries. I'm never trying to, chase that because it's what makes us all beautiful. I also have natural asymmetries on my face and muscles that pull a little stronger one way or the other. That's okay. But when we're talking about, a specific concern, those are some of the things we can address. So moving down, we have another orbicularis muscle. This is the oris muscle, and that is the mouth. It's another round sphincter muscle. It helps us kiss, purse our lips, and some people develop those smoker's lines as they age, and that bothers them. So superficially, you can treat those little lines with a little bit of Botox, and it's really very similar treatment to the lip flip. When people talk about the lip flip, it really is just treating this area of the muscle, and it relaxes it, and in turn the upper lip will turn upward a tiny bit, so it gives the appearance of a slightly poutier, larger top lip. There's pros and cons to it. If someone's really looking for a full lip look, there's other treatments that are going to be better suited for them, but this kind of gives people a slight glimpse of what that could look like, and so in this right client, it's the right treatment. This area of the face, I do love considering this as well for people. The muscle back here is responsible for chewing. It helps us chew, and it attaches to the bone here and travels down, and that's called the masseter muscle. So for some people, if they are ones who grind their teeth or clench their jaw a lot, hold a lot of tension in their face and their lower face, or even somebody who chews a lot, are you a gum chewer? If you're chewing gum all day, these masseter muscles are going to become strong and hypertrophied. It gives a more boxy face appearance. So if your desire is to have a more smoothed, heart-shaped face, then considering a little Botox to this muscle back here will help give that slimmed jawline appearance. So not everyone's the right candidate for that. I don't treat that area myself, but some people are excellent candidates for that. This area down here is such a dynamic area of movement, and there's muscles again that are pulling and pushing, and it's elevating and depressing. And the muscle out here, the DAO, the depressor anguli oris muscle, is responsible for pulling our face down. So if you're at rest and you're just hanging out and you already have a naturally downturned mouth, and people are like, oh geez, looks like a mean lady. Maybe it's just you have a stronger muscle. You're not mean at all. So we could consider treating that muscle. There's one right next to it, the DLI. We don't want to treat that one. We don't want that crooked smile look. My muscles have a little natural asymmetry to them already. It's just who I am. But, very, very important that we're treating the right muscle and not the wrong muscle. This muscle here is your mentalis muscle. It is the muscle of your chin, and it can become very strong on people. We call it a pebble chin or a cobblestone chin or peau d'orange. It's like the French word for orange peel. It's that textural lumpiness and bumpiness appearance that can sometimes be at rest, and certainly with animation. I can't really reproduce that on myself, but that would be an area with a little bit of Botox could really cause quite a smoothing effect and an elongation of the chin as well as we're aging. I always say it, we're losing bone and collagen and elastin, and this bone starts to reabsorb a bit, and it can kind of get that witch's appearance to it where it's short and upturned. Well, let's minimize that by putting a little Botox in here. It's going to help elongate this part of your chin, right? Okay, so those are I think I talked about all those spots on the lower face, but why stop there? We have muscles all the way down our neck too. So the muscle that attaches here and goes all the way up to the lower face is called the platysma. It's generally a smooth muscle that just extends all the way up and around. And as we age, we start to get bands here. And so it's the muscle kind of just gathering and forming bands. And as we animate, you can start to see them. Now, I had mine treated, and so they are not very prominent, nice and smooth here. This one here is a little bit it's showing a little bit. So if I wanted to be very specific and detail oriented, I could have a little bit of Botox placed there and it would give more of a smooth, cohesive look. But you know, for my fitness friends and my bodybuilding friends, it's really impossible to lift weights and not cause these muscles to also engage. So you're going to start to see them as you get older and you're aging, and especially if you're strong and you're lifting weights. You don't see that on younger people. It's in older people, which is okay. But if you want more of a cohesive look, I would say consider it. So those are really the muscles of the face that we can treat. We could also consider sweating. So are you somebody who gets a lot of sweating under the arms, even with deodorant? You could use Botox very superficially into the skin, and it's going to minimize sweating. Same with the hands, the palms of the hands and feet can be done, and it's minimizing sweating. Those results tend to last a lot longer, maybe up to 6 months for those areas versus the face muscles. Those results, 3 months, 4 months. By then, those results are wearing off. So I do always really advise staying regular with your Botox dosing. If you are somebody who gets Botox every 3 months, you're going to see a better result over the long period of time because we're keeping those muscles quiet. They are debulking in some areas and really becoming weak muscles. So they're not able to reproduce those strong movements they once did. In which case, you're not going to see those lines reoccurring, and some of those etched in lines that we're trying to get rid of, you're fixing the problem. So if you're staying up to date and regular with your Botox treatments, you're going to get a better result on the long run. Also, another thing to consider when you're talking about regular Botox treatments is the dosing might need to adjust because what was once a very strong muscle has now become a weakened muscle over time. So it's important for your provider not to be just giving you standard dosing every time you come in. We have to really evaluate your muscle. How strong is it now? It was very strong at one point in time, and now it's not. We need to go down on your dose, and that's great because that's a little bit of a reduced cost as well if we can go down on your dose. But these are all things to keep in mind when we're talking about treating with Botox. Another reason I love to encourage people to find a provider they like, that they align with, and then stick with them, because that's how you're going to get your best results. If you hop from provider to provider, good luck. I don't know what you're getting. So anyways, I'm already talked way too long. Nobody's probably even listening anymore. It's my thing. I like to talk. And when I get excited talking about something, it's hard to stop. So happy National Botox Day to everybody. And you can get Botox on other days besides National Botox Day. Thanks for listening if you did. Take care. Bye, guys.